It's the Golden Road TV show. Well, bridging the past with today for a better tomorrow.
Golden Road explores the intersection of arts, environment, culture, health, peace, justice, science, and technology, paving the road for positive social change.
It's the Golden Road TV show. It's the Golden Road TV show.
And welcome to Golden Road TV and radio show. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and would like to thank you for joining in as we continue to provide inspiring, educational, and conscious content around arts and culture, health, the environment, peace and justice, and science and tech. Of course, they all affect the quality of our life. And I'm really happy and really honored because I know she's really busy with the upcoming Sustainable Food and Farm Conference, but I'm really happy and honored to have on the show the conference manager from Sierra Harvest, Rachel Berry.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. So, before we get into the interview, because I do want to talk about the conference, it's exciting and people will be watching this before the conference so they'll know a little more what's happening and how they can get involved. But how did the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference idea begin?
Well, it started about 9 years ago with local farmers in our community who were interested in bringing some of the big national leaders in the Sustainable Food and Farm movement here to Nevada County so we could all benefit. And so it started as a very grassroots effort. I think the first speaker to come was Joel Salatin. And year after year, there was more and more interest. The program built and built, and about 2 years ago, the volunteer farmers handed it over to Sierra Harvest so we can organize it. They're still involved in the planning and the curriculum, but Sierra Harvest manages the details so the farmers can do what else they're doing.
Everybody do what they do and do it good, so we have to compartmentalize sometimes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, I know you probably wear a lot of hats, but how long have you been managing the conference with Sierra Harvest?
This is our third year hosting it. So this will be 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, you know, there's a lot that's been happening recently with our fall resiliency tour for the Golden Road. We were up in Mount Shasta, we were out in Chico, and of course we did a broadcast here. We're doing a lot of community think tanks to see what people respond to and what they're interested in the community, since we're trying to be a public service through independent media. And I have to say, you know, you've been doing the conference for 9 years, and you know, it's not a new idea, but you've been very well ahead of the curve, because right now with the current world situation, the wildfires, what's happening with our current administration, and all these things, this old paradigm of how we've done business or how things have worked is kind of shifting, even with the idea of you know, global warming and changes in environment. So I want to give you kudos of being ahead of the curve, and how do we really, you know, what you're doing, how does that apply locally here? Is it's all local farmers? Is it dealing with the specific environment and climate in Nevada County, or is it something people can come from other areas and learn?
Yeah, well, I think we're really lucky here in Nevada County. You know, we have a long legacy of forward-thinking people, and you know, the roots of the organic movement are here. We've got a lot of people in our community who've been doing this sort of work for a long time. So as far as the conference, I feel like we focus on Nevada County as far as Sierra Harvest and our work. But for the conference, we have about 90% of the people come from Northern California, and the rest, you know, will come from all different parts of the country to participate in this education, because it's applicable to us here, but the concepts are applicable to anyone who's interested in sustainable food.
Fantastic. Well, we broadcast on YouTube, so maybe we can entice some non-Northern Californians to come out and learn something. So with the conference itself, there's workshops, there's speakers. What's the formula that people can expect?
Yeah, I can break it down a little bit. We have 3 main days with the conference. Friday we have our special workshops. So people can learn how to cultivate mushrooms at home, medicinal mushrooms and edible mushrooms. We also have a Friday farm tour, so if people want to see hands-on, you know, what some of our local farmers are doing and some of their innovative practices.
And not to interrupt, how many, when I moved here 8 years ago, I was impressed how many organic farms there are in Nevada County. Do you know about how many?
You know, I don't know the number. We do have a lot for a community our size.
Definitely over 15, I mean, I think just...
Oh, sure. If you look at the Nevada County Farm Guide, you could look at our farms there and see the diversity. We have a lot of small-scale farms, which is typically, you know, better for the environment.
Okay, so
The farm
Friday
tour.
there's some work. They're going to get their hands dirty, right?
They might, yeah.
Okay.
They check out the farm tour. They'll be able to see how Mountain Bounty Farm is extending their season. They've opened up their CSA to a winter CSA this year where they're growing a lot of the food, so people who are interested in that can come check that out. The tour will also be going to the Fowlers. They're a farm in South County where they've raised meat for many, many years, and they also have goats as vegetation management. And so they use their goats to help graze land, and there's a lot.
So if you use Roundup, remember,
You
don't
could be
spray,
using
get some goats. There you go.
And the beauty of it is it's not just getting rid of the plants like a weed killer would and leaving, you know, the poisonous residues, but it's actually the way that they can rotate them. It's actually building fertility, and it can actually build more pasture and more vitality into the landscape.
It's interesting because I work with a Lakota gentleman, and also I know some of the people from the Buffalo Field Campaign. And I think, and again, I'm not here to express my political views on the show, but to give people a voice. But it was really interesting to hear about the effects of the original buffalo and how they broke up the soil and helped to, you know, stimulate plant growth. And now how a lot of areas through the cattle industry are overgrazed and damaged. For anyone who's driven through Central Valley down Route 5 to Los Angeles recently, you can see half of it's agriculture, half of it's cattle. And you know, just the impact of how people have done things in the past. So
Right, and that's a perfect lead into what the conference features on Saturday. And Saturday we feature our keynote speakers, where we bring in national leaders in the movement here to our community. And one of the speakers this year is going to be Joel Salatin, who opened up the farm conference many years ago. And he's a master at teaching how do we raise animals in a way that mimics the natural cycle, like when the buffalo did roam the plains, because that stimulation of the soil needs to happen. And if we totally leave it alone, it's not going to be as healthy. If we mass graze it with a bunch of cattle, it's not going to be healthy. And so he shares his system of how do you rotate the pasture, how do you really focus on the quality of the soil, and that will in turn create quality of animals. And so
which is really interesting, because I read something recently where they were advising people not to rototill. You know, traditionally people rototill, but it actually can disturb the soil at such a depth in a way that it destroys a lot of the beneficial bacterias and the culture of the soil.
And that's a perfect lead into our other
This is not a stage.
We have Elizabeth Kaiser coming, Elizabeth and Paul Kaiser. They are from Singing Frog Farms in Sonoma County, and they're award-winning farmers because what they're doing is they're really focusing on how to maximize the health of the soil versus what can I do to get the best impact of my crop today. And they do no-till methods, so they're not using any machinery, and it's really about, you know, building these ecological systems in the soil the way nature has done, you know, for a millennium. And so we've learned that, you know, ripping up in the toilet, you know, using a rototiller can help in some regards, but if you're breaking up all those mycorrhizae and all those the life in the soil, in the long term, you're doing the soil injustice, and your farm will be less resilient.
See that? I learned something already.
Yeah, so the Kaisers are coming, and they're going to give a full download on how they're managing their farm. They've reduced their water consumption by over half, and they really get a lot of productivity out of their soil. They've increased their the organic matter in their soil through these methods, so it's really promising.
Right, I'm sure compost is a pretty instrumental part of that.
Compost is huge, that's right.
So obviously you have speakers. So we're through Friday, Saturday, and then on to Saturday evening, Sunday.
Yes, we do have one more keynote speaker that I wanted to mention, and her name is Daphne Miller. And she's actually a family physician from the Bay Area. And we've invited her to come because she was inspired by soil, actually. You know, what we were just talking about how the soil requires this healthy balance. You know, she thought, well, maybe humans have something similar to that. Maybe there's something analogous. And so she started spending her time on family farms, organic farms, and began studying and realizing that there are many things to the life on the farm, including the food, including the lifestyle, including the community, that really contributes to human health. Right. And so as a physician, she'll prescribe people farm time. She'll prescribe people farm fresh food from their local community because she's seen how that supports people's health.
Non-GMO and organic, preferably.
Right, right, and a little bit of dirt is good.
Well, it's so interesting because recently, and on last week's show, episode number 32, I was at the state capitol where I got to speak with Dr. Michelle Perro and other people who are working on the glyphosate and the Roundup issue. And very much like a farm, we could see the relationship of what we eat and the result of pesticides or GMOs having not only an impact on the environment that they're in, but also the environment in our own guts, in our own stomachs, and how that affects our nutritional uptake and our digestion and our overall health. So it really is amazing, you know, scientists seeing these direct correlations between the outer world, the inner world, the microcosm to the macrocosm. It's really amazing.
Right, and so, again, perfect lead-in. For Sunday at the conference, we have a series of 20 workshops. And so you as a farmer or gardener or foodie can come and pick your own curriculum and learn about things like how do microbes in our gut affect our health, how to ferment foods that are rich in microbes that can support our health,
right.
How to, if you've got a whole animal, if you have a small farm or a garden and you've got chickens or goats, how do you process a whole animal to really get the health benefits of many of its parts, not just the best cuts. So there's that kind of track for foodies. There's also a track for professional farmers if you need help figuring out, you know, how to really make a profit in your business, or, you know, how to get that tractor running in tip-top shape. For home gardeners, you can learn more about cut flowers, you can learn more about permaculture or growing medicinal herbs. So there's really a nice variety of classes because we want everybody to benefit from this education, not just our farmers and ranchers.
Wow, fantastic. So you've been busy.
We've been busy, yeah.
So I think one of the things that's interesting too, as you were speaking, I was thinking about the idea of giving people education solutions. And another thing I had flashed upon as you were speaking is you talked about the mushroom workshop. And I know that a gentleman, I think his name is Paul Stamets, has been doing research about using certain types of mycelium, which is the sporage of mushrooms. My terminology might not be precise, but how they're using that to actually clean up various toxic sites, from anything from petroleum contamination to hazardous waste.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, nature gives us all of the answers to the questions. We just have to look into nature.
Right,
so.
and actually Paul was one of our keynote speakers 2 years ago at the conference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like I said, we really focus on bringing in these national experts because we want people in our community to benefit from this knowledge.
So let's move forward now. So when you're not doing the conference, maybe not you personally, what is Sierra Harvest doing on a day-to-day capacity?
So Sierra Harvest is 10 years old, and we focus on inspiring people to connect with fresh local food. We educate farmers on how they can grow food more sustainably, and we help people grow food in their own backyard.
Now, for those of you who might be watching who don't know, could you elaborate a little bit about sustainability? Because it's a very loaded term, just like resilience. Like when we did our fall resilience term, a lot of people never heard of resilience. And a lot of people who came and spoke said, well, resiliency is important, you know, the ability to be flexible, but also we're talking about regeneration. We don't have to recreate a wheel, we just have to repair the systems
Right.
in the past. So could you just elaborate a little bit about sustainability?
Right. Our vision is really about what you've mentioned, about resilience and regeneration. And sustainability is a term that most people are familiar with as far as, you know, we don't want to keep taking away from our systems. We don't want to degrade our gardens and our farms by growing food. We don't want to degrade the environment by growing our own food. If we can be sustainable, you know, maybe that's, we're not degrading, but if we can be regenerative,
That's like the
we
next
can,
level.
you know, we're actually creating more health in our environment, which is just going to gift us back if we have cleaner water and cleaner air and healthier food. And so that is really our vision.
Fantastic. I know those are two issues I'm very passionate about, is the use of Roundup. I mean, pesticides in general. Also, I mean, even when you go out to a restaurant and eat, when they come next to you and they spray the table next to you with some sort of toxic bleach cleanser, and how all of this affects our water and the quality of our water. And we haven't even scratched on the surface of the long, golden but somewhat dark history of heavy metals in the mining industry here. But we're not going to get into that because we're here to talk really about the idea of sustainability and regeneration. So in that process, so the conference is open to anyone, but are there special things like for students, or maybe if you're a farmer, or, you know, a discount or a work-study program or something?
Right.
You know, because money can be tight for people, and I know
Right.
it takes money to make things happen. And again, congratulations and thank you for really pioneering such an amazing and pertinent conference. But is there ways that people can get involved, or?
Sure. Yeah, we really try hard to keep the conference prices low to make it more accessible for people in general. And then in addition, we offer discounts to people who are actively farming and ranching. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, I'll direct you to our website in a minute. But there are opportunities there. We also always need volunteers for the events. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can also contact us as well.
Fantastic. And it is amazing also, it's really easy to communicate with you. And again, thank you for your time to be here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
But during we just had the Wild and Scenic Film Festival.
Right.
So I decided to go on Sunday and watch the films around resilience. And one of them was about the story of people in El Salvador who took the war-torn place that was all part of the whole Contras and Sandinistas and have turned it into this amazing coastal sustainable project. Unfortunately, recently the U.S. government was trying to buy that part of the Pacific coast to bring in mega resorts and to bring in hotels and to supposedly help the overall economy of the country. But the amazing thing is these people joined together under the leadership of a woman, and we just had, of course, our International Women's Day marches all around the world, that under her leadership they were able to deter development on this very specific part of the coast.
Oh, that's great.
So that was a great film, and then we also saw one called The Cloud Forests of Mexico, which was the same idea that a lot of these cloud forests, because of clear cutting and things, have been basically, they don't exist anymore, but there's a very small area in Veracruz, Mexico, where they still have the cloud forest. So what they're doing to preserve this, I believe 500 hectares of very unique environment and what's happening there. And it really, what amazed me about the film, it wasn't, you know, overly high-tech people. They didn't have to have technology. It wasn't difficult. All they had to do was simplify their lifestyle, and they actually realized that they were more comfortable and even more happy living more naturally than some of the toxicity that we expose ourselves to here in the privileged country of America. And of course, we love our technology, and it's a very useful tool, but nonetheless, you know, we had a speaker on a few weeks ago who talked about the effects of Wi-Fi and the different effects of what happens with the electromagnetic energy on our overall health. But it was amazing just to see people just living simply and happy and being sustainable and actually regenerating this whole area that now the cloud forests are coming back.
Oh, that's great. And you know, I moved here to this community about 9 years ago, in part because of the farming community and the organic movement and the sustainability movement, because I feel like that's resiliency, to be a part of a community that really embraces that and is moving forward on that agenda. And I feel like that's part of the reason I'm so excited about this conference, because it's not just for farmers, or it's not just for this rancher over here. It's for all of us to work together to be more thoughtful about how we grow food, the food we eat, and how do we move as a community to more regeneration, more sustainability.
That's why I moved here too. I was actually living in Santa Cruz, where I was working for the theater arts department at the University of California, and I just fell in love with this area. I mean, where in the summertime can you drive up to the snow-capped peaks of the Sierras, drive down to Sacramento and, you know, be barbecued with 120-degree heat, but enjoy the Tahoe. Actually, I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to overly entice people to keep moving here. But
it's a great place to visit for the Food Farm
It
Conference.
is. There you go. And people would like more information. Again, if you could give them the website and maybe even an email or phone number, whatever is relative.
Sure. The website for the conference is www.foodandfarmconference.org. foodandfarmconference.org. And our office phone number is 530-265-2343. And you can contact us directly from the website. You can also Google Sierra Harvest, and you can find out information that way as well.
So last question or two, if I may. I own property, and I'm looking at potentially doing some sort of permaculture extended project. For food, because I know this, it's a very dynamic region here from South County, Grass Valley, which is I think a 2,000-foot elevation, all the way up to Truckee, which is high desert. I'm somewhere around 3,000-foot elevation. What would you say would be great things to grow for food?
Oh gosh, well, if you were to come on Sunday to the Food and Farm
See?
Conference,
I'm going to have to sign up.
We'll be featuring a farmer that is actually up at on the High Sierra. He's at, I believe he's at 5,000 or 6,000 feet, and Gary Romano, he has Sierra Farms up there, and he wrote a book called July and Winter. July is his growing season, but he's figured out a lot of ways to extend the season so he can grow more at that high altitude. And so coming to that kind of workshop, you can get a better idea of, you know, what sort of technologies can you use, whether it's just, you know, a row crop cover or a greenhouse, to expand what you can grow on your property. But generally, you know, greens are always nice at a higher altitude because they like the cooler weather. You know, to stay away from things that require a lot of heat unless you have a lot of sun.
I tried goji berries, it didn't work.
Oh.
It didn't work. But I'll have to get my human growth hormones from other natural sources.
But another great thing about the conference is there's so many people that you can really connect with other people in your neighborhood, other people who have similar issues, similar interests. On Sunday we have a roundtable lunch. And so people can, if they have a topic they really want to talk about, like you're like, what are people growing at 3,000 feet?
Right.
What are people doing in my neighborhood? You can put that up, and then people can sign up, and you can all get together for lunch and
So
trade
what are you
information.
serving for lunch? That's my question.
Well.
Anyway, we'll keep it a mystery. If you're interested, go to the website.
There you go.
And last question, a little bit more of a sensitive issue. And again, I'm not here to impart my political or philosophical beliefs. And it might not have any direct relevance to Sierra Harvest because you're doing such amazing work. But last week I had Philip Northcutt on the show from Sierra Gold Compliance. And of course, as of January 1st, California has, well, let's say decriminalized cannabis. It's been decriminalized for a while for medical, but now they say it's for recreational, which the exact terminology which I learned is called adult use. Because you can't say it's recreational when, you know, we don't want minors having access to cannabis. But, you know, Nevada County being a unique climate, like other parts of California, has a long history of cannabis cultivation. And I know a lot of people right now, because of the legalization, which is parlaying into corporatization, a lot of people who have had small cottage, home-based industries or whatever they might be doing are concerned about not only their livelihood, but also about the quality, because we know there's a lot of issues right now with GMOs, people actually patenting different strands of different seeds and foods and things that are happening along with Monsanto and other organizations. But if anyone who's watching the show, you know, maybe you are a cannabis grower and you have that as your paradigm, how, besides coming to the conference, what would be your personal philosophy about trying to maybe get some of these people to move from a kind of a dying industry that can also have very negative impacts on the land to doing something that can really contribute to the resilience and the economic growth and the overall health of our community here in Nevada County?
Well, you know, I'm not an expert in this area, but you know, we know in this county we have a lot of infrastructure around cannabis cultivation. And it would be really exciting to see some of that shift towards food. You know, we produce about 2% of the food that we consume in Nevada County. And I was really surprised to learn that because I felt like we have such a thriving farming community, but we only produce 2%. And so if we were to expand our farming as a community and create more food, that could be a really big asset for our health and for our economy. If we could bump up from 2% of what we producing 2% of our food, I know, if we could bump that up to 20%, we could keep over $3 million in our community every year, which is an incredible economic impact if we're, you know, spending all that money outside of our community. So I encourage people to really think about food production. And Sierra Harvest does have a Farm Institute program, which is designed to help mentor and educate people to move into a career as farming with a lot of support, because it's not an easy career path. You know, you really do need support to be successful.
Wow. So when do you sleep?
I don't do it all. We have an awesome team of people.
The power of collaboration.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, again, you're watching Golden Road TV, and we also podcast this as a radio show. I do want to remind you we broadcast every week on YouTube, but also we broadcast on cable TV in Siskiyou County, which is up to the state border of Oregon in the Mount Shasta region. We broadcast in Shasta County, where Redding is located. We broadcast in Butte County, of course people know Chico and Chico State. We broadcast here at home in Nevada County. We also broadcast up in Truckee and Tahoe, who has their own cable network. We broadcast into Sacramento County, Calaveras, and Amador County. And in light of what we're doing, we're going to be adding a few more counties because we've really come to realize that we're committed to quality of life around the Sacramento River watershed, which also provides California, where I think the 78 to 81% of its water. So even though the Dakota Pipeline, and there's a lot of great causes out there, we're really putting a super focus on this region that we all love and appreciate and call home. And I just want to say thank you so much for all you're doing, and I'm hoping to be out at the conference. Maybe we can get a little more some clips and talk to people and just continue to you know, evolve and help move our community towards not just sustainability but regeneration. Because of the history, we know there's a lot of work to do. Yes, so thanks for watching Golden Road TV Radio, and thank you so much for being on the show. Again, I've been talking with Rachel Berry from Sierra Harvest. She is the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference Manager. And would you like to leave us with maybe a little quote or some words of wisdom?
Oh, gosh. You are what you eat. Make it count.
Wow, brilliant. So thank you, and I'll be back in a few more minutes with more discussion here on Golden Road Television.
It's a golden road TV show. Yes, it's a golden road TV show. Well, we've got it all going on here. It's a Golden Road TV show. .com.